Okay, so I woke up this morning and had a dream. It um, isn't, it's a rapture dream, but we weren't taken up. So it was just I think a he's coming dream. We were about to be taken up. Something was definitely about to happen. Okay, so um, um, so I've been for a long time, years, looking for a car, wanting um, to get myself a new car, like an SUV or something. So in the dream, um, I've been having a hard time wanting to pull the trigger and buy one. I just do not want to. Okay, sorry. So I haven't wanted to really buy one to kind of. I just don't want to spend the money. I want to buy one. I just don't want to spend the money. So in the dream, um, I had purchased an SUV, and I was driving in an area that I don't really recognize. It had a lot of fields, or it was just outside. It was like a 2-lane road, and it was just a really pretty sunny day. Um, Blue skies, clear, like blue skies, maybe a couple of white, like pillowy clouds or something. Just a really pretty sunny day. You wanted to be outside doing stuff. And there were fields on the left and right of me. And I should say, I was not driving. I was in the back seat, and my father was in the passenger seat, and my son was driving. And it was a, I don't know, I know I have to put this in there. It was a used SUV because I just don't want to. So I really liked the car. I was like, yep, this is good. It works. It's good. It's fine. So we were driving, and I knew that we were taking my father to a doctor's appointment. And it really wasn't an appointment. We were just like, it was like a drop in. He was going to go see a doctor. I don't know why. I remember telling him, why didn't you, it would have been easier to make an appointment, or why didn't you make an appointment? He's like, no, it's okay. It's just I can just walk in. But I don't know what it was, or what the point of it was. And my son was driving. We were just going along this 2-lane road, and make sure I'm not missing anything. So we were driving, and then all of a sudden my dad goes, hold on, I forgot something. And he got out of the car. I don't know. It wasn't like, I remember the car stopping and he got out, but he got out, but he didn't fall. It was like, I don't know, it must have paused and he got out and he was out of the car. And I was thinking, he's going to walk back to wherever we were starting and get whatever it was that he forgot, or what was going on, what he needed. I have no clue. And he goes, y'all go ahead, and I'm going to go get this and I'll catch up with you, type thing. Okay. So then I remember we were driving, and I was still in the back seat, and my son was still driving. The passenger seat was now empty. And I was talking to my son about the car, and he was asking, like, well, how much is it? And this and that, and, or why do you like it, or whatever. And I said, well, it's like, and I went into the price, like, well, like $300 a month, and I'm going to share it with Paul. I'm going to let him, use it. He needs a car too. And we're just going to do this. And it's better than spending $800 to $1,000 a month. I don't care. It is what it is. And then all of a sudden, I think we were driving a regular speed, like maybe 50 or something. Well, 50 is not regular speed, but it wasn't fast and it wasn't slow. And we came upon like a flooded area. Like, I had known that it rained, but nothing had indicated rain. There wasn't rain in the sky. There wasn't rain Nothing was dark. Like I said, it was a really sunny, beautiful day. You wanted to be outside. And it was a flooded area across the street, and there was some people out like looking at the flood, trying to figure out how to get across. And there was like maybe one car ahead of us that was already like going across in the middle of it, and some people on the other side. And we hit the water, and I remember my son like put on the brakes like really hard, like, oh, I need to slow down. And we kind of, the seatbelt caught, and so we caught and jerked up a little bit. And then we went into the water, and I was like, ooh, is this going to make it? Because we hadn't driven the car like this, right? I was like, where did this water come from? And we were going across, and I was like, oh, it did really good. We went across the water, no problem. Had no issues. And made it to the other side. And we started driving, keep driving. And I was like, well, look, we need to stop because Paul, which is my dad's not going to be able to come across that floodwater. We need to go back and get him and then bring him back across. And I'm looking out the rearview mirror, and I kind of can see, not the rearview mirror, the rearview window. And I kind of can see now my dad's at the floodwater. I was like, he's going to try and cross that thing on foot, which is really weird because he's still walking and he's catching up to the car. I have no clue. But I was like, he's going to try and cross that thing on foot. Like, that's just... Okay. So then all of a sudden, my dad's closer to us. And I'm like, oh, he's across. But he's not wet. Like, he doesn't have, like, wet pants. Nothing's really wrong. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay. There's no water. There's nothing's wrong with them. There's nothing on or any problems. So then he's walking, and which is weird is that he's walking on the right side of the road, like, what's it called? Like where you pull over if you have car trouble, like the march. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, so he's walking on that, and my son and I, son's still driving, I'm in the back, are on the left side of the road, like the left lane. But it wasn't like we were in the wrong lane. It was almost like we were going to go through a tunnel that was still open, like on top, because we had a wall to the left side of us. And my dad was walking with a wall on his right side. So it was 2 lanes going through a one tunnel way, like a one-way tunnel that was open at top. Because it still had like light, like really good light and everything. And it wasn't lit. So we were on the left-hand lane, and the wall was on the left side of us. And my dad was like, you need to slow down. So I was like, you need to slow down or stop, Thomas, so Paul can get back in. And he was hitting the brake, or no. So he was slowing down, but for some reason, I was like, the car's not stopping. It just keeps moving forward. It's just going forward, just like going. And, my dad all of a sudden was in the car. Again, it's not like we stopped, not like I remember him getting in or anything like that. He was just in the car. So then we go through and we make it to the other side of this little tunnel area. It opens up again, and we have we have fields to the right and left of us again, and it's a really clear sunny day. Still, nothing's wrong, no indication of anything. And I'm looking out the passenger back window where I'm sitting. I'm kind of in the middle of the seat, but I'm looking out the passenger side window on the back, to my right. And I look in the sky, and I see above this field, like in the sky, in the blue sky, like a circle that's not huge, not small, like a medium. I don't know how to put the size of the circle. Kind of like not as big as when you look up and see. Well, no. Yeah. Okay. So it's the size of when you look up and you see the sun. Like it's the size of the sun when you look up. Like the sun's high, it's a hot day, it's just high, and it's just kind of there. Okay, and it starts having like these gold fireworks, like, you know, those gold fireworks when you're watching like 4th of July, and they kind of, and they mist off, like, and they have little sparkly looks, and it's going around it. Like all of a sudden there's a circle and it's moving like this, like around in this gold firework type look. But then all of a sudden it would go gold, 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 like it go choo, 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 and make a circle. And when it would flare off of it, like the firework, like it would choo, choo, all around. Okay, and it kept doing that, and I was like, oh, that is so pretty. And I knew that something was up. I knew that it had something to do with Jesus. I was like, this is, something's going on. Okay, and my father was in the passenger seat, but he wasn't looking out. He didn't look out the window. But my son that was driving kind of leaned and was leaning and trying to like look out my backside window so he could see it. So he's looking out my window in the back, driving with his left hand kind of leaning, you know, and he was like, oh, I see it. Like, oh. And then I was like, you need to drive. Like, watch the cars. You need to drive. Then he'd turn around and he'd keep driving. And then he'd look again, you know, so he would look on the road to make sure it was going good. And then he'd look again because he wanted to keep watching it. And then all of a sudden we were in the little area, like the town where the doctor's appointment was. It didn't have a lot in the town. I don't remember seeing any more buildings, but you could tell you were in there's more cars in front of us, and more cars, more populated for some reason. And on the right hand side, there was the entrance and the exit to this. It was like a doctor's office building. So it wasn't a hospital. It was like a doctor's office building. And you had the entrance and the exit. And the building was up on a tall hill. Not a mountain, but like a really tall hill. And it was at the top with the parking area and everything. So you had to enter in, like turn into the entrance and go straight up. It had a little lane. So, you know, but one of those really steep driveways, but really steep. Like, because I remember my stomach kind of turning like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like these. The car's going to kind of flip backwards or something. And my son just kind of took the hill, no problem. And it was a straight entrance. And the exit was right beside us on the left-hand side, but they were separated. And so you went up, and at the top of both the exit and the entrance were gates, like those lifty gates, like in a parking garage, where you have to usually put tickets in. And I was thinking, there's no way we're going to stop on this hill to put a ticket in. I do not want to stop on this hill to put a ticket in. And we went up to the gate, and it just opened up and let us in. So then we went in. And I was thinking, okay, thank God, you know, we didn't have to stop. So we went up to the building, which was like a 2 or 3 story building. And we went up to the building, and my dad got out, went into the building. And my son and I were going to go park the car, okay, the SUV. And he goes, well, go ahead and get up front and drive. So he moved over to the passenger seat, and I crawled through I stepped over through the 2 front seats and just went to sit in the driver's seat. And I remember looking at the seat, and there was this like big slash where the material was messed up. And I was like, oh, I don't remember that rip or that tear. But right behind it was this big gaping hole. Like really messed up, really big gaping hole. And I was like, I know about that gaping hole. So I knew about the gaping hole, but I didn't know about the tear or the rip. And I was like, kind of messed with the material. And I was like, oh, no big deal. It's okay. It can be fixed. No problem. It's no problem. It can be fixed. And so I sat down. I was like, oh, this seat is really broken or messed up. And I was like, but it's okay. It can be fixed. Like it's no problem. It can be fixed, you know? And so I went to drive the car to go find a parking space. But I was by the edge of the hill, which was the entrance and the exit. It had the entrance and the exit going up and down in the gates. And for some reason, every time you hit the brake on the car, the brake didn't want to work. So you hit and it would just go straight down, like you have no brakes. It would hit the floor. And the car just kept moving, like it just kept going forward. Like you could not stop this car. It just kept moving forward, like progression. Just keep going forward, keep going forward. And I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to go off this. Like my stomach was turning. I didn't want to go off this hill or go down that exit because it was too steep. Didn't want to go down the exit. There was no way. And somehow I remember putting in reverse, and I was able to back up and then put it back in drive and then do like a U-turn. So I did a U-turn. And when I did a U-turn, I was heading back to the building, like the front of the building where we let my dad off, by the doors, the slider doors and everything. And there was people, it was still daytime, real sunny. And there was people going in and out of this building, all types of ages, kind of. Okay. And when I turned around, there was 4 young girls, and they were probably 13 and under. And the youngest was probably around 4. And the older ones kind of separated to let the car go through where I could keep driving, because remember, I couldn't stop it. And the younger one kept playing in and out of the front of the car, and I did not want to hit her. But then finally I saw her little head poking out and she was moving. And as the girls walked by and separated on both sides of my car, like 2 this way and 2 this way, they kind of looked at me, just kind of did this, like, kind of like if you just look and go. Like really slow, just looking at me through the windows as I went by. And so we kept going, and I went to the side of the building, the office building, and there was a parking lot, an open area parking lot. And there was like a median, like you do a parking lot, and then it has a curb that goes around, and there was a grassy area that had some other type of building. It was like maybe where people could go and eat or do little picnic things or something. Okay, so there was a space that was open in front of that against the curb. And I parked by this other, like, bigger SUV. Okay, and so I was parked front face against the curb. And I was like, good, there's a curb, the car will stop. I don't know, I cannot get the car to stop. It was just progressing forward. Okay, and when it stopped, there was a family walking to the big SUV, and the family was like, I don't know if they had a grandpa, but there was a grandma and a father and a mother, and the father and mother were probably in their 40s, and a boy that was like 12, and he had a baseball cap on. And it's like they just got done eating at that pavilion place or whatever, and they were carrying things back to the SUV. Well, I was sitting in the car, and my son got out of the passenger side, and I was looking up because now that firecracker round circle thing, gold thing, was in front of us. Like we were parked facing that direction now. And it was starting to get like dusk. So it was starting to get dark. It was starting to get dusk. And I got out of the car, and I was like, look. And up in the sky, so you had the round gold firecracker thing going in a circle, and then below it, so it was like a line. So they went from top, and then there was another thing and another thing. Okay. And I was looking, and there was like a firecracker circle, and then below it was a clock. And it was a big clock, but it was just the face, like the face of the clock. And it was Roman numeral. So it was black Roman numeral, Um, and there was like, a 12 and then something underneath it. It was like doubled, like all the way around, something all around the face. And the hands of the clock were kind of like black scrolled hands that move around, and they weren't fixed on a time. They were going kind of like haywire, but not haywire. They were just going around and around and around. They weren't at a fixed point. They did not want to stop. They were just moving around and around and around in like almost two different directions, like vroom, 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 vroom. And I was like, oh, they're just kind of moving, like maybe a continuous time or something. I don't know. It was just moving, and that um, that clock had something around that. That face of the clock has something around that, but I'll get to that. So then I looked below the clock, and it's getting darker now. So dusk is it's getting darker. And I looked below it, and there was like a scale. No, it wasn't a scale. It was a pendulum. So I could tell it was like a triangle thing, and the triangle was cut in half. It had one side and another, but they were still connected, but you could tell. And the pendulum was going like dum, 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 from side to side, like dum, 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 dum. Okay, kind of like one of those things when you are playing the piano, you do, and that's like a triangle thing, and it keeps you on, in rhythm. Okay, but it was like a pendulum thing, doom, 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 making sure it's turning right. Okay, but that's what it kind of reminded me of. It was like the piano one. Okay, but it was a pendulum. And I was like, oh, a pendulum. I don't really know. I have no clue. I have no clue what that is. Still, I don't know. Okay. But it had two definitive sides. Like the triangle was cut in half. Okay. And maybe it was like time to make a decision. The left side or the right side. And people were getting pushed to the side. Doom, 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 doom. Okay. And then I'm trying to think what came next. So then, okay, so this family was loading things into the SUV. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So before I got out of the car to see all this stuff happening, the family was kind of sitting in the car, and the grandma was sitting on the front passenger side and had a window down. I was like, Jesus, it's Jesus. Jesus is coming. And she kind of looked at me through her window, and she goes, who's Jesus? And so I was like, what do you like? Jesus is coming. So I started like telling them about the good news and who Jesus was. And so when I was getting out, I was like, look, the skies. Jesus is coming. There was more signs. And that's when I noticed the clock and the pendulum. Okay. And so I'm telling her and her family and the little boy, the 12-year-old boy in the baseball cap, about Jesus. And there's more people gathering like around the other side in the parking lot, around the side of my car. And they're kind of looking at the skies and kind of listening. And the grandma was really nice faced, and she was listening, and she was kind of like, trying to understand. The mom, her facial and how she was talking was acting like she knew, and she was really nice. She didn't want to butt up against anyone, but she knew, but I don't know if she was saved. Okay. The father was very argumentative, like didn't want to have anything to do with it, didn't want to hear it, didn't want me telling his family, just needed to be quiet. And the son was just quiet. Okay. So, after I saw this and I saw the pendulum, the son was leaning, they were outside now standing, and the son was leaning against the side of their car. And I walked up to him and I hugged him, and I had him close, and we were kind of like talking, right? And I was like, you like baseball? and you're going to play baseball in heaven. Like, you're playing baseball in heaven. And he was like, he said something, and he goes, just don't talk to my dad. Like, don't say anything to my dad. Don't talk to my dad. He's kind of like blind. He's not going to see. He's just me or something. Okay. So he kind of pushed away from me. Not pushed away, but we stepped away out of the hug. Okay. And I then realized that the other family members, the grandma and the mom, wanted to kind of listen, but they didn't really hear it. The dad had nothing to do with it, but I knew that the little boy was going to be saved or understood, and he was going to be in heaven. Okay. So then I walked to the back of my car, and I was still looking up at the skies. It was night at that time, clear sky, night. It had like some, you could tell some maybe clouds, like white clouds or something, like scattered, but it was clear. And I was looking at everything that was still going on, like that line. And I kind of sat in the parking lot just wanting to gaze up at the sky. And so I sat in behind my car in the parking lot, just looking up at the sky. And my son sat beside me, looking up at the sky. And then so we're both facing the backside of my car, looking up at the sky. And the mom and the dad from that family were sitting kind of beside us, in front of us, but they had their backs against the sky, and they were looking the opposite direction toward the medical building. I still don't know what this medical building was about. No clue what was going on in there. Okay. My dad still hadn't come out. Okay. And they were looking the opposite direction. They had like their knees like pulled up, kind of toward their chest, but they weren't holding them. They were sitting with us. And the woman, his wife, wanted to kind of listen, but was just kind of like a people pleaser type person. Like, she knew, but she hadn't made a decision. And she was just really nice and kind, and she was listening. The man was still belligerent to us. And he was like, they're just like these freaks. They're just these freaks, just like those hippies. They're just these freaks like those hippies. And there was this older man that was walking up to us with white hair and a white beard. And he's like, yeah, just like him. He's just like these hippies. And I don't know who that man was, but he was an older man with white hair, shorter hair, and a white beard and like mustache. And it was clean cut, but it was white. Okay. And then at that time, the dad said, let's go. And so they all stood up and they loaded their ice chest and luggage into the car, finished loading, and then they left. So my son and I are sitting still on the pavement looking up at the sky. And we're the only ones sitting looking up. And all of a sudden, beside that circle and the clock and the pin. Oh, I totally forgot. Really quick. I'm sorry. Before we sat down on the ground, I pointed to the sky, and I was telling the dad and the mom, but everyone that was around listening, and I pointed at the sky. I said, do you see that? Do you see that? That's around the clock. Do you see that? And so it was a clock face, and it had something around it. And I said, that halo. I said, do you see that halo? I said, that's the rainbow. I said, that's around God's throne. That's the rainbow around God's throne. That is God's throne. Right? And then that's when we went and sat to look and stare at the sky. Okay, and all that happened. So then the family got up, after all that, and they were like, he's just, those hippies. And then they loaded the car and they left. And we're still sitting there. So off to the line. So there's a line this way of the circle gold fireworks, the clock with the halo rainbow around it, and the Roman numeral numbers, and then the um the hands just going every direction, and then underneath it was the pendulum, both sides. Okay, so on the other side of that, a little ways away, there was like this scroll that opened, but it was flat when it opened, and I don't know what it said on it. I don't know what it was. I don't know. And then all of a sudden there was this big bee that started flying and buzzing around it and going in circles and then kind of going over the scroll and then around. And it was sparkly like glitter lights. It was sparkly like glitter, and it was gold, sparkly, almost like that firework. And then black, and the black was even sparkly. So it had the black lines like a honey, like a bee, like a honeybee or whatever. Okay. And it was flying everywhere. And I was like, look to my son. And I was like, see, I knew the bees. I knew the bees. It was real. The bee meant something. I knew that, I was given that. There's the bee. And, we were watching, and then all of a sudden I looked to the left at that medical building, and the medical building was not a medical building. It was a movie theater. And on the top of the roof of this movie theater, they had those big, like round lights, like those searchlights that when you have a grand opening, they kind of like shoot in the sky and move back and forth, or spin and move back and forth. They had those up on the roof of the building with lasers. Okay. And the lasers and those lights. So where I was watching, where God was showing things, it was clear. It was a pretty dark, and it was just not, it was just dark. It was night, but it was like very clear what we were seeing, and it was very peaceful and like wonderful. And then over the movie theater, that direction, it was a lot of white, those white clouds, like light gray and white clouds. And it had the searchlights going and the lasers going above it, and a lot of the white smoke or fog. So it wasn't clear. It was a very misty, kind of. It reminded me of the fog that's coming across the states because of Canada's fires. That everyone has that white fog. Okay, like that polluted air, the smoke. Okay, like a smoke screen. Smoke screen, exactly. A smoke screen. Okay. And the lasers and the lights did a little, almost by the scroll and the bee, did a little animation, made an animation in the sky on the smoke screen and the clouds. So they used the smoke screen and the clouds to do a false animation. And I don't remember what it was. But then above the building, the theater, the theater, above it, everything was shooting, like everything was straight up on that smoke screen in the clouds, made the size of the building a big checkerboard. And it was black and white checkerboards, like squares, like a checkered flooring. Okay, like checkerboard. And there was these animation creatures that were kind of moving and jumping, not dancing, but moving and jumping and playing all above this board, or on this board. And one of them that I remember reminded me of Mickey Mouse, the old Mickey Mouse, like the black and white Mickey Mouse. And I remember saying to my son, no, like this is false. They're making a false animation in the sky. They're making a false animation. They're using this smoke screen in the clouds, and they're using like AI and like technology to make this false things and happenings in the sky. And over here by us, in front of us, is God's like truth. But they're making it look false. And so my son and I were looking at the stuff that we were looking at that were God's. And then I looked at the parking lot, and there was people all in the parking lot around their cars, and they weren't looking at God's. They were looking above the movie theater, and they were all mesmerized by the movie theater above it. And so they were looking at the deception, and there was people still walking in and out, or going into this building, this medical building movie theater, going into it. And I thought, it's what I thought. They're using this smoke screen. They're using AI. They're going to deceive people in the skies with AI, and oh, no one's going to realize the truth of God's signs and coming. And then I woke up. So I had that, and then I came and I told my son and my daughter about it. And as I was telling my daughter, I remembered a dream she told me she had last night, or the night before, and she was telling me about it the night before, at the dinner table. And I thought, I think your dream goes with mine. I think I just had the second part of your dream, or not even the second part, but the interaction of your dream. So I'm going to put that on my channel. I'm going to put her dream, and then a real quick clip of mine in with hers. I say channel, I just upload things that I think God wants me to upload. Okay. So I'm going to put her dream on it. I'll probably tell you about it because I don't want her on. She may be beside me talking to me, so I have everything correct. But I realized when I woke up from my dream that I found it really weird, because I either have her in my dreams, like with me. We have interactive dreams where we're both in a like understanding, and we're doing things in our dreams. Or if she's not around me, I know where she is. Like, I understand where she is, and she's in my dreams somewhere because there's other things going on in my dreams, but I know she's down doing this in that group, or I know where she is. Like, I just feel like I know that she's there. This dream, I told her, I said, I didn't know where you were, which is the first like dream I've ever had where I didn't know where she was. And it hit me. I think we had the same dream but different parts. So I'm going to put that one on there. But the whole point is I'm loading this dream to saying, okay, he was coming. Everything was shown in the skies. And Jesus is coming. Know him, know him, know him. Know a relationship, have a relationship with him. Not just a prayer, have a relationship with him. And don't be deceived. So many are going to get deceived. Don't be deceived. I love y'all. God bless.